Hi, I wanted to come on tonight to share another journal entry. And this journal entry I titled Promise to Serve. So, as you know, I'll be looking down because, it's a journal entry and I want to kind of stay true to what I had written down. Um, but yeah, I titled it this because, um, well, I'll just go ahead and share. So I was at work and I walked down the hallway and there was a billboard at my job, a large billboard that said promise to serve in large letters at the top. But there was nothing below it. And for weeks I had walked past it, but nobody came to update it or fill it in or complete the board. And I was like, is this is like, why is nobody coming to complete it here? And as I was like walking past it, I started asking myself like, well, what are you good at, and what have you been serving? Like, just this internal process, and I started to go through as I kept walking past and seeing the letters promise to serve, and I was like, okay, um yeah, and it just made me do like this questioning of myself and just this examination, of like, just what have I been projecting? What am I good at that I'm not really showcasing? Um, even with character things, like, um, how can I be different? Am I serving a bad attitude? Am I serving, bad language? Am I um, just, all of these things? And so it made me question, how can I make a difference and how can I become different? Different in attitude, different in language, different in habits, different in eating, thinking, and so on and so forth. So, what ways can you start to become different? And is fear, or is the fear of change or uncertainty stopping you from doing that? And as I continue here, I said, what I have learned is that the comfort zone is actually the cemetery disguised as a comfy couch. It feels good to nestle up and even throw a blanket on and lay and rest. But then you discover one day, hopefully, as your birthdays pass and as you turn on the TV guide to see what's next coming on, that it turns out it's just a rerun or a movie you've seen before. And the same thing can happen with your life. It begins a continuous cycle over and over again. There's nothing new on, nothing new happening, and nothing has changed besides the day. So, as I wrote that, it really like hit me hard. And I immediately like thought back to like back in the day. I can remember as like a teenager, like DirecTV was like hot, and like all the channels and things, like at my grandparents' house, I used to just like go through the guide, and it would be like the same movies playing all the time and all these channels, but they would play the same shows and the same movies. And that's what I thought about when I wrote that. But it's true, like, with life, if you just choose to not become different in any capacity, then your life will be a rerun. And it's like a rerun of habits, a rerun of relationships, failed relationships, a rerun of just even being caught up in sin cycles. Just your life becomes a rerun. There's nothing fresh, nothing new happening. And so that's what I thought about with that. Like, the comfy couch is really just, is like, it's the cemetery basically. And so also, as I'm saying that, as I'm working my way through the book, The Body Keeps the Score. There's a point in here in this book, and the portion that I'm going to read from here, it's titled Inescapable Shock. And basically, it was an experiment that they did. Now, I don't agree with the actual experiment itself because it's like cruelty to animals. I don't agree with that. However, the lesson in it was pretty impactful. So I'll just share here. So basically, what they did was they took a group of dogs, and there were a group of dogs that they had in the cage where they didn't shock them with the electric shock. They didn't shock them. And then there was a group that they did shock. However, what they did was they shocked one group and opened up the cage. And then they didn't shock the other group, and then they opened up the cage. Now, of course, the group that had not been shocked, they ran out the cage immediately. But the ones who had been shocked, they stayed inside the cage, even though the gate was open for them to escape. So, in here it says that the group that had been shocked made no attempt to flee when the door was wide open. They just laid there, and they whimpered and defecated on themselves. And it says, the mere opportunity to escape does not necessarily make traumatized animals or people take the road of freedom. Like Meyer and Sigmund's dogs, many traumatized people simply give up. Rather than risking experimenting with new options, they stay stuck in the fear they know. So, yeah, it's really powerful because, this book, I reference it a lot because I'm working my way through it, and there's so much in here. And it talks about, like, just so many things. I can't even fit it all in even one video if I try. But, it's basically like how the brain processes trauma, and it hones in on PTSD and how that affects the brain as well. And one thing I just thought was really interesting was that, a lot of times when people think of PTSD, they equate that to, like, it has to be a veteran of some sort, typically when we hear PTSD. But really, it applies to many levels of trauma because it's a brain reaction and a chemical change and a processing that actually shifts after trauma. So to really read about that, and also just to get a better understanding of what happens to an individual in their brain, which then affects how they move physically, their body's functions and reactions, and the connection between the brain and the body. It's really, really, really interesting. And I think a lot of people, as far as like the comfort zone, and it's even with me, I've been through my fair share of trauma, I would say, for sure. And as I'm going through my healing journey and reading and getting more information and getting to know myself, reading scripture and things like that, as I'm going through my own journey here, and also trying new things to come out of my comfort zone, actually, too, it's just really interesting to learn about why people choose to stay in their comfort zone and not try new things, and they're okay with their comfort, So I thought that was really interesting, especially with the book pointing that out. And so, like, if you are someone like who's been through some pretty devastating things, you've experienced trauma, maybe, abuse of some capacity, or an accident, or a lot of verbal abuse, even just trauma in general, it can keep people from wanting to just step out even a little bit, and it's that the fight, flight, or freeze response, that response in the brain, it doesn't function properly. So a lot of, just like with the dog experiment, a lot of people, if you've been through a, some really severe trauma, or what your body processes as severe trauma, it can kind of keep you stuck and freeze, and you don't want to move, and that really can keep you stuck in cycles. Yeah, I'm not a clinician or anything. I'm just a person who's learning about myself, reading a lot, and just getting more information, and just also, um, I am into scripture and things like that now, but I just, for anybody who has experienced a level of trauma, I would definitely, I'm going to say it again, recommend this book. But if you don't want to get the book necessarily, or just any little baby step to come out of what you know to be your regular or your norm, you know, that's what I would say. Whatever that might look like, just try to do something a little bit different today than what you did yesterday. Even if it might feel a little bit uncomfortable, whatever that thing might be. So, yeah, because it's the trying to push yourself to kind of come out of that cage is what's really gonna allow to feel some sort of freedom, I would say, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Okay, anywho. So yes. So as I continue on here, off my tangent. Okay, so I said it can be a frightening thing when the day of realization comes the day of realization comes, but you get stuck in fear and you don't move in spite of fear. And I heard Les Brown say one time that courage is not moving without fear being present, but it's moving in spite of fear. You know, so that's what I was saying, like just to try something to come out of your comfort, just something. And let me take another little pause here from the journal. But like, I am a introvert. Anybody who knows me, they would be like, there's no way Nina is, she has a YouTube channel. There's no way. I didn't even tell anybody I had a YouTube channel. Like, that's just how, I didn't even tell anybody. But it's just, this is something I thought I would never do. But what led me, one of the things, there's been many things, but one of the things that led me to even be able to come on camera and like be able to film myself talking was because I had joined a mom's group, and it required me to actually have a Zoom meeting every week with strangers. But it was one of the most beneficial things in my life, because it allowed me to have a discipline and be more committed to things. So I actually had to like sign up for this social activity, which is unusual for introverts in many capacities, right? Then I also had to commit every week and show up and participate. And it was one of the most awkward things at first, but it was also something that I felt really good about doing, because it was a group of ladies that I had something in common with. So it was creating a discipline for me to be committed to something. It was pushing me out of my comfort zone to actually have to interact with people face like on camera, which is something I'm uncomfortable, like have been uncomfortable with for years, like not even wanting to take pictures and things like that. And then it was like being open to share and having like a vulnerable space to just share, and we learn from each other and things like that. So yeah, whatever your thing might be, whatever you think might help you, it might be joining a fitness class, or it might be joining a book club, or even picking up a new book that you never thought you would read, but you're interested in learning something new. Whatever that thing might be, is different for everybody. So just try to push yourself. But the experience with like the Zoom calls every week and interacting with people, it got me to feeling like, okay, well, this isn't so bad. That's basically what I was getting to. So, yeah, yeah, just baby steps is what I would say. All right. So anyway, I said, but moving in spite of fear. Firmly decide that you want to start adding value to someone else's life by adding value to yours in the process. And as I was saying, this might look like starting a new hobby, a career, picking up a new book, listening to sermons, possibly, listening to motivational things, helping someone with an issue, starting a business, going to therapy, starting to eat better, getting a little bit of physical activity in. Whatever it is, let it be something that pushes you from comfort to conquering. The very gift and talent that you have and choose to serve can feel, it even can feel natural and feel comfortable, but it just took you coming off of the couch to stand up and serve. And also, too, what I would say is that as I have walked past the hallway again, the letters promised to serve are no longer there. But there was a small little tiny post-it in this big billboard thing. There was a small post-it in the middle, directly in the center, and it said excellence. And I was like, and when excellence, I think most people generally know what that means. But when I actually looked up the definition of excellence, like really defined it, it says the quality of being outstanding or extremely good. And I said, choose to be that. And it's like everybody's good at something. That's why we're all different and we look different and we have different qualities, extrovert, introvert, just different artistic abilities and all these creative things that are within us, but we'll never know if we don't try to see what's in the inside of us, and it's like it's only one of you. So it's important to kind of see what's there and see what you can share. That's kind of what I'm meaning to say. And so, yeah, I said excellence. I said to serve someone, to help, to love, to become better mentally and physically, to keep pressing, to learn, to discover, to teach, to pray, and just make a choice to get up and act. It is success and it is excellence. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to share for this entry here. And I will actually record another one here in a second because I wanted to do one a day. So, yeah, promise to serve. Stepping out of the comfort zone, even if it's a baby step. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next video.